Monster Hunter can be a very complicated game, especially with all of the intricate weapons, convoluted menus, and so much more. As such, in today's video I'm going to be providing you a complete beginner's guide so that you can get a full understanding of how Monster Hunter Wilds is going to play out, and I'll be showing you a lot of things that you should know before you even set foot into a hunt, but I'll also provide you with some combat tips as well, also that you can have a better experience with the game so you can enjoy Monster Hunter Wilds for hundreds of hours. With that being said, hello everyone, my name is Dark Hero and let's get started. So let's start by walking you through the base camp in the Windward Plains. As you play through the game, you're going to visit different locales, and in each of these locales you're going to have a base camp where you have a lot of facilities that you will want to become familiar with as you will be visiting them a lot. So even though the layout of those other maps might be different than this one, it's still worth it for us to check out some of these different things. Now if you want to post a quest, you can come over here and talk to Alma, as she is responsible for the quest counter. In here you can post an assignment, which is the main story quest, or go for an optional quest instead, and some of these you'll want to do as they will reward you with special things such as upgrades for your palico or new trades with the villagers, which I'll talk about in a moment. You've also got the field survey history, which basically allows you to see the monsters that are available on each different region at all times. So for example, if I open up the map here in the Windward Plains, you can see the monsters that are available for me to hunt, and if I press square or X while the map is open, I'm able to see exactly which monster is available as well as the rewards that I'm able to obtain from them. And here in the third tab you'll also be able to see what exactly is going to change as time passes in this region. So if you are looking forward to hunt, let's say, a Chotacabra, you would have to wait approximately 40 minutes for him to come in naturally. Though naturally, of course, you can simply go into the optional quests, and if you have already fought a Chotacabra, you can simply post a quest for him. Later on, you'll be able to gain investigations, which is a core part of the endgame experience of Wilds, but I'll talk about that in a future video. For the purposes of this video and getting you started, we don't need to talk about this right now. Event quests are special quests that are going to be limited for a certain amount of time. Think of them as seasonal events that will be rotated in and out, and you will want to definitely check in on these as they will often give you unique rewards. By talking to Alma, you'll also be able to join a different online lobby, or if you want to play single player, and you can even set up special lobbies for just yourself and your friends with the squad lobby, for example. So if you want to play co-op, this is the way to do it. Now the tent is actually one facility that you're going to visit a whole lot, as it does have a lot of things for you to do here. You can basically do anything you want except for crafting weapons and armor from your tent. For starters, here we have the item menu in the first tab, and this one is very important, as before you head on a quest you want to make sure that you bring the right items with you. And in order to accelerate the process of you restocking every item before you go on each quest, you can actually create different loadouts for each of these items. So maybe you don't want to bring all of these items with you because you are going to be gathering a lot of stuff and you fear that your pouch is eventually going to be filled up, then you can go with something like this, a loadout that has a lot less items. Or if you're going for a difficult quest and you want to bring some traps, some defensive and offensive items, as well as max potions and mega potions, then you can make a loadout for that as well by pressing the L3 button, and after you are set with your loadout, you then press triangle or Y and you can register that loadout, like so. Now if you ever find yourself in a quest trying to look for a certain item, scrolling through your pouch and you're not able to find it quickly, then there is a good chance that you might have screwed up the order on these items. So if you find yourself with all of these items unorganized in a weird way, then you can simply press triangle or Y and you can come here into auto sort, and you'll get it sorted like this. You can also restock all of your items as well as your ammo by clicking here. So that is something else that you can do very easily without going into the loadout. So me personally, I would recommend you to do the auto sorting and the restock before you actually register a loadout. Another thing you can do from your item menu is craft all kinds of different items, and this is incredibly useful, and you'll want to do this dozens if not hundreds of times over the course of your playthrough, as you're going to get a lot of special items that you can only get through this method. And some of these can be incredibly useful, like Mega Demon Drug giving you a powerful damage buff lasting for 30 minutes. So one very simple example is you can see right here, to make mega potions you can bind potion with honey, so you can come over here and craft as many mega potions as you want, provided you have the required materials. You can also see this toggle next to the mega potion icon right here that you can toggle on and off. That is essentially the auto crafting option. That is to say that if, for example, I am out on a quest and I run out of my mega potions, but I have potion and honey in my inventory, and it will craft it for me. You can also set up a couple of items here in the crafting menu as your favorites, which is the star icon next to these items, but honestly it doesn't matter too much. Just keep an eye on these craftable items as they're going to be incredibly important, especially if you play with bowguns, as they are necessary to craft the ammunition that you use. Now speaking of the radial menu, this is one of the most useful things that you're going to be using, as it is essentially a shortcut for you to access all kinds of different items. Now the game does actually have a couple of radial menus already set up for you that are actually quite useful, with the initial one already having the whetstone to sharpen your weapon, as well as the optimal health recovery and the optimal status recovery that you can select, and the game is going to decide for yourself whether it's better to drink a mega potion or a regular potion. Or with the optimal status recovery, the game will decide for yourself what is the best item for you to use to recover from an ailment that you have suffered. Now I would also recommend you to slot in a couple of more health recovery items into your radial menu once you get the chance. As you can see right here, I have a max potion as well as a mega potion and a life powder. Max potions instantly will heal you to max HP, and sometimes you are in a hurry, you are in a bit of a pinch, you're going to get hit by an attack and you need to heal right away, and while you would be able to recover that health with a mega potion, you want to do it immediately, so that is why I have the max potion right here. And I also have the life powder, so I'm able to heal myself as well as other allies if I'm playing in multiplayer. I then also have a couple more pages that are set up for different things, like this one that is incorrectly labeled as communication. I did not change this. Is the page with all of my buffs that I like to use. So all of these red ones are offensive buffs and all of the orange ones are defensive buffs. So depending on the situation, I might bring these items with me and use them accordingly. And then I have a couple more utility items, the bowgun ammo, and some fun stickers. You're also able to add new loadouts to these radial menus, which is pretty cool, although I don't like to have more than 4 or 5, as when you're trying to swap between the different loadouts, it can get a little bit tricky, as you need to have a couple more button presses in order to reach the loadout that you want to reach. Like for example, if I'm here in the ammo tab and I want to reach the utility tab, which is the one with the shock trap icon, I'll need to go through the loadout too, which is just emotes. I'm going to have a dedicated video specifically talking about item loadouts in the future and what I would recommend you to use, but for now keep in mind that the radial menu is a very important thing for you to get used to, as it is a very quick way to access all kinds of items that you may need. Also, while we're talking about the radial menu, I would recommend you to go into the options tab here, and under controls go to the very bottom of the first page under the item usage controls and change it from type 1 to type 2, which basically just means that whenever you want to use an item from your radial menu, by default you simply flick the analog stick and you'll use the item, but the way that I have it, you actually have to press down the analog stick. So if I press R3, I'm actually going to use the item, and I simply do this to not mistakenly use an item that I didn't want to use, because I flicked the analog stick a little bit too much to the side. If you're interested in seeing different options that you should change in the game to have a better experience with wilds, you can watch my video on the best settings for that. Naturally, in the tent you can also change your equipment, and much like with the items, you can also register all kinds of different loadouts, and you have 14 pages of this, so you can go ahead and craft all kinds of different builds that you want. You have plenty of room to play around with. I wouldn't necessarily recommend you to sell any piece of equipment. You don't get a lot of money out of it, and money has never been an issue with me in this game, so there's really no need for you to go ahead and sell any piece of equipment. And naturally, if you are a bowgun player, you can come here into the customized bowgun option and tweak your bowguns in many different ways. You can also change your Palico's equipment, but one especially important thing that you can do in the camp here in the barbecue menu tab is that for one, you can grill a meal, and when you play Monster Hunter Wilds, you'll always want to make sure that you have a meal effect active at all times. As you can see here on the right side of the screen, I currently have it active for 22 more minutes, and the food that I've eaten provides me with a lot of benefits. It gives me additional health and stamina, which you will always get out of it, but on top of that, it gives me additional attack, defense, elemental resistances, and some special food skills. And some of these are really powerful or provide you with some very nice quality of life benefits. So while you can come over here into the recommended meal, you can cook only with the rations, which is only going to last for 30 minutes and is only going to give you additional health and stamina, as well as attack, defense, or elemental resistance depending on the main ingredient. Because we're using fish here, I get 4 extra defense. This is something that you can cook only with rations, and given how easy it is to get rations, if you are here in the base camp, all you need to do to get more rations is come over here to this Palico, Tom at the ingredient center, you talk to him, and he's going to give you some extra rations. As you can see, he gave me 10 rations. So that of course translates to me being able to get these cheap recommended meals 10 times, which again, each of them lasts for 30 minutes. And a couple of things about the timer: not only does the timer pause while you are in town, as you can see see when you take a look at my buffs on the top left corner of the screen, all of them, including the attack buff, which only has 10 more seconds left, is paused because I am inside of the base camp. The moment that I step outside, it actually starts ticking down, as you can see right there. And this timer is actually going to carry over multiple quests, so if you get a meal that lasts for 50 minutes and you are fast at clearing quests, you'll be able to maintain that benefit for many different quests, which is very useful. Now, it should be noted that you can actually cook outside of any camp. It doesn't have to be the base camp or one of these pop-up camps that you can place up anywhere on the map. As you can see right here, I have quite a few already set up, and these again all have pretty much the same functionality. You can go ahead and grill a meal here as well, but outside of these camps you can go ahead and use the portable barbecue grill. You place it down and you're able to cook a meal for you, much the same way that you were able to at the camp. So let's go ahead and cook a recommended meal using only rations. So tasty. And there you go, you get all of those benefits from eating that meal. And if you're ever curious about the benefits that you have, you can always go inside of a tent and it will tell you the benefits that you got out of that meal as well as its duration. Now, because I had better benefits from my previous meal, it actually overwrote it with this one. But if you want to make a special meal, you can go ahead and use the recommended option to add ingredients and cook, or you can create a custom meal where you decide the different ingredients that you can use. So I can use, for example, this one that extends the invulnerability period when I'm evading, which is very powerful, or this one that has the Caprice Meal food skill that will repeatedly activate a large attack boost at random intervals. Again, very useful, and also extends the duration of the food buff by an additional 20 minutes. Now, that being said, as you can see, these ingredients are all consumable. You're going to eventually run out of them if you keep using them all of the time. So while you are playing through the base campaign of the game, you're playing through the story, I would actually recommend you to only go with the recommended meal, only cook with rations, and that's it, because you really are not going to need any of this additional stuff. And I would more so save this for the end game of Monster Hunter Wilds, because that is where it's going to make a difference. Now, in order to get more of those ingredients that you're going to need to use to craft the more specialized meals, you're going to want to head out to some of these villages that you're going to find on each different map. So for example, in the Windward Plains, in the very middle here, you have the Kunafa village, and one such NPC is going to be Yisai that you can talk to, and he's going to have optional quests for you that are going to be listed within the side mission tab. So if you open up the menu and go to the second tab, missions and quests, in the mission info you're going to find essentially the side missions that you have. Some of these will be to capture endemic life, some others will be to go ahead and defeat a certain monster in a certain locale, and some of them will actually give you special optional quests for you to complete. And as you do these, you are going to be getting quite a few ingredients that you can then use to cook the different meals, but also you will unlock the ability to trade with these villagers eventually, which is going to be very beneficial for you, as there are certain items that you can only obtain by trading with them. So for example, if I come over here to Murtabak, this NPC right here, as you can see, he has retrieved all of these items for me, which is something that you'll be able to unlock later on by doing these quests with these NPCs. And if I come over here to Kiloma, I'm able to initiate the item trades. And as you can see, a couple of these items are the Kunafa cheese, which is again an ingredient that you can use in cooking, which is going to provide you with a lot of benefits. Now, as you explore the different maps, you're going to come across a few special places where you can place down a pop-up camp, which are these smaller camps like the one you saw right before, and you can then open up the map and fast travel between these locations. So here on controller, if I press right on the D-pad, I can open up this menu, go into the fast travel list, and then I'm able to select which pop-up camp I would like to visit. Now, these pop-up camps can actually be destroyed by the monsters that are roaming around the map at all times, but don't worry, you can actually fix them very easily by simply talking to the pop-up camp meowsters, these palicos right here, which are also going to be located besides the pop-up camps that you have, including the ones that were destroyed. So if you talk to him and you ask that you would like a pop-up camp built, you can see that I have this one on the area 10, which has just been destroyed, and it is going to be fixed in 10 minutes automatically. But if I want to use it right away, I can spend 75 resource points to fix it, and this is a resource that you're going to have a lot of. As you can see, I have 18,000 at the moment, so spending 75 to fix this is no big deal. A couple of other important things that you'll want to know that you can do on the map is, for example, if you are looking for a special material on the map, you can press right on the D-pad once again and come over here to the second option, the filter icons, and this will allow you to see every single creature and every single item that is available on the map, and you are actually able to target them so that you can go right ahead and actually hunt that item. So for example, if I am looking forward to mining a bunch of bone piles, I can select this and you can set a waypoint or highlight it. You can also set a waypoint by pressing down the right analog stick, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and you're also able to do that as you just freely look around the map. So for example, I can set a waypoint here, but let's go ahead and set the waypoint here on this bone pile. And now I can hop on my sacred by pressing up on the D-pad, and he will automatically take me there. And naturally, while you are on top of your sacred, you can go ahead and collect all kinds of items with your slinger, like so. And here we are. Now there's a few certain items like the mining outcrops that you can get with your slinger, but you actually need to do it multiple times to get all of the items, like this. Oh, I actually got a rare one. And in the case of these items, it's actually quicker to walk up to them and hold down the circle button or the B button, and you're going to gather all of these items much quicker. You don't have to keep tapping the same button over and over again. Now, going back to base camp, there's still a lot more that I want to cover here. Obviously, you have the best NPC in the game, Gemma the Smithy, that you can talk to craft different weapons and armor. I'm not going to be showing this because I don't want to spoil too much, but one thing that is very important to keep in mind is that you can see I have the option between a low rank and high rank armor set. And I can actually show you these as they won't spoil much. These are just the initial armor sets that you can craft, and you will unlock the option to craft the high rank armor sets as you pretty much finish the story and enter the end game of the game. And unlike the weapons, I'm not going to be showing you the weaponry, but here on the weapon list, you're able to craft a weapon and upgrade it all the way until the highest rarity as you play through the game. So for example, I can get this Hope Sword level 1, and I can upgrade it all the way to rarity 8, where it becomes this Esperanza Sword with a lot more damage, a lot more sharpness, and even has a couple of good skills. However, that is not the case for armors. You cannot upgrade a low rank armor set into a high rank armor set. For this reason, I wouldn't recommend you to go out of your way to craft a ton of armor sets in low rank. Of course, you can go ahead and do it, as it is going to make the low rank experience easier for you. But just keep in mind that once you reach high rank, you're going to essentially need to craft a lot of these armor sets once again, as it is essentially a totally different level of progression that you're going to gain access to. And for that reason, I wouldn't spend too much time and too many materials crafting these low rank armor sets, but also don't be too stingy with them because you're not going to be using these materials for much more than the low rank armors. But just keep in mind that you don't need to keep farming the same monster over and over again in low rank if you want to craft a certain armor set, because it's not going to carry over to high rank. A very useful thing you can do here at the Smithy as well is craft talismans. Some of these can be very basic, like offering you thunder resistance, ice resistance, dragon resistance, very basic stuff, but some of these that you can craft later on can be incredibly useful. One talisman that I would recommend everyone to craft as soon as they can is the Blessing Charm that you can get very easily, as it is going to provide you with Divine Blessing, which is one of the best defensive skills, if not the best defensive skill in the entire game, giving you a chance to reduce the damage that you take up to 50% at level 3. That being said, the default armor set actually comes with Divine Blessing level 3, so if you don't swap out of the initial armor set, you don't even need to craft it, but just keep in mind that that talisman is going to be very useful up until you can get some decorations, which are essentially gems that you can slot into the different slots. So if for example you take a look at this leather headgear, below the defense rating of 26, it has a single slot for one decoration. Later on you'll be able to get decorations that you can equip on your armor sets, and I have a whole video prepared for decorations and how to best farm them, but just keep in mind that Divine Blessing will be a decoration that you can always slot into your armor sets once you reach high rank very easily. Also, another thing that you can do in the Smithy is, for example, if you want to craft these goggles right here and you don't have the required materials, then you can press triangle or Y to open up this menu and add this to your wish list. Like so. By doing this, you can then go into the monster field guide, and in that case it's actually a small monster, and the ones that have an item that is on my wish list are going to have a pin like this. So you can come over here to Alma to the quest counter, and if you go into the optional quests, you'll see the ones that have a pin are the quests that give you an item that you need that you have on your wish list. It's also important to know that not all items can be obtained in the same way, even though they might come from the same monster. So for example, if we go to the large monster field guide, and let's just use as an example, not only are you able to see its weak spots and where it takes the most damage, along with what element is best used against it, but you can also find out what parts of it can be breakable, such as the head for the Chemetris, as well as if you can break or sever the tail, which in the case of the Chemetris, you can do. And on the 4th page, you'll be able to see the chances of you getting each of the different items that Chemetris is going to drop, with it even telling you that you can obtain the Chemetris crest by breaking the head, or the Chemetris tail by severing it. And as you can see, you even get the exact chances of you being able to obtain these, so this is very useful if you're trying to farm for a certain material. And of course you're also able to toggle between low rank and high rank, so you can have a good idea of the odds to get the items you desire. And also, by the way, on the third page you can also check again the recommended element against Chemistry, which they even give you examples of skills and items that you can use to take better advantage of this, but also the status effects that are the most useful against it. So with Poison and Paralysis both having 3 stars, they're the most effective against Chemistry. And speaking of breaking heads and severing tails, it's time for us to talk about slashing and blunt damage, because each different weapon type can actually deal a different type of damage, with some weapons like the sword and shield even being able of doing both blunt and slashing damage. That of course with the sword and shield, you can do blunt damage by hitting the monster with the shield like this, and you can do slashing damage by using the sword like this. So what you can do with this blunt damage is of course hitting the monster in the face with the shield like this, and eventually you'll be able to get staggers like this one right here, and eventually you'll actually knock down the monster. There you go, like that. And of course if I go for the tail with the sword, I will eventually be able to cut it. Now, as you saw right there, I got a notification telling me that I broke the tail, but I didn't actually cut it. I am able to cut it if I keep hitting it. But it's a good thing that Chemistry is asleep, because I can now explain this to you. Whenever a monster is asleep, is a good opportunity for you to sharpen your weapon, put on some buffs, etc. But also another thing to keep in mind is that the very first hit that you do against Chemistry would deal double damage. Now, he actually woke up naturally, but as you can see from the gameplay in the background with another different monster, you can take this time to plant a large barrel bomb, for example, and then you hit the barrel bomb, and the barrel bomb is going to deal double damage. And in fact, you can even place down one of them and take out a second large barrel bomb and chuck it at the first one, causing them to explode and deal a lot of damage. Now, only one of those 2 explosions is going to deal double damage, but still, it's a lot of damage that you're able to deal in a single instance. Also, remember that you can perform a sneak attack if you go up to a monster like this with your weapon sheathed and then press circle or the B button. You'll be able to do this attack that deals a lot more damage. And you don't even need to use your Gilly Mantle to use it, you can even do it without equipping the Gilly Mantle. And there you go, just like that I was able to cut off its tail. Another thing that is incredibly important in the combat of Monster Hunter Wilds is the wound system. Of course, by hitting the same spot of the monster over and over, you'll be able to create these wounds that start to glow whenever you hold down or with the toggle options. And of course, you can then walk up to these and press the right bumper to perform what is called a focus strike, like this, consuming the wound, and the sword and shield actually has different options. Now, the important thing here is that not only does this deal a ton of damage, but each time that you consume one of these wounds, even without using the focus strike, you'll get 1 monster material every single time. And that can also be the rare material for the monster. So let's go ahead and do it right now. And boom, we got a Chemistry Igniter Plus. And if I do it right here, boom, I got a Chemistry Hide Plus. So applying these wounds is incredibly important in this game. Not only do you get a lot of damage out of it, you'll also a lot of times get the monster in a vulnerable position to deal damage, but you also get some extra rewards out of it. And of course, don't forget to carve the tail that you have cut, as it does come with extra materials. And in the case of a lot of monsters, there's also the chance of you getting the rare drop out of the tail carve, so that is very important. Once again, we can perform a sneak strike. We don't even have the Gilly Mantle on. We can do it simply because we moved to a different area and we moved as well. So we do that to deal extra damage at the beginning. Now, Chemistry is in a very sorry state, but there's another thing that I want to show you guys, and that is the mounting system, because it's very confusing for a lot of players. So the way that you get mounts in Monster Hunter Wilds is by simply doing damage while you are in the air, like this. Jumping off the sacred and attacking the monster will do aerial damage or mounting damage. And the way that the mounts works is essentially a threshold. You are slowly dealing damage to an HP bar, and once you deal enough damage, you'll be able to mount the monster like this. Now, the thing about mounting is that there is a circle with the monster's icon on the bottom of the screen that goes from blue to yellow and then to red, depending on the monster's actions and how much time you have remaining on top of the monster. Your stamina is constantly draining while you are mounting, so you do need to be careful about that. There's only so many things you can do on top of it until you'll be shaken away. But ideally, you want to move from each different monster part, and whenever the monster tries to shake you off like that, where the screen starts to shake and the icon goes red, that's when you move to a different part, like that again, and then you go ahead and try to deal damage either using your weapon or the knife to apply wounds to that part. And eventually you want to end the mount by doing a weapon attack like this, dealing damage and knocking the monster down, like so. Now ideally you want to make sure that you leave the easiest wounds that you can access while the monster is on the ground open, and try to destroy the wounds that are more so on the backside of the monster that are harder to reach. You want to destroy those while you are mounting them, because you won't be able to access them as easily with most weapons. Some weapons have an easier time getting mounts. For example, the sword and shield is actually a very good one, because you can do this and then do this, and all of these attacks will deal mounting damage, and therefore making it much easier to get a mount on the monster. But now that Chemistris is asleep once again, if you take a look at the minimap, you'll be able to see a skull icon appearing, indicating that Chemistris is about to die. You can also know that Chemistris is about to go down if you notice that the monster is limping as it moves across the map. That is one of the best indicators letting you know that they are about to die. When this happens, when you see the skull or the monster is limping, both indicate the same thing. What you can do with these monsters is you can run up to them and use a tranquilizer like this. You need to use a couple of them, make sure that they land on the monster, and then you can place down either a shock trap or a pitfall trap, and they're going to be captured. Like this. Wait for it. And boom, just like that, we captured Chemistris. Now, in some of the previous games, there has been a difference between capturing and slaying a monster. In this game, it appears to be exactly the same, though I will be doing some further testing to make sure that I can give you guys accurate information on this. Another thing to know about these traps is that if for whatever reason you place down a trap and the monster doesn't come to it, and they end up moving to another location, you can actually retrieve those traps like this, and you don't end up wasting them. You can use them again, like so. And naturally, you can also use the environment like these vine traps as natural traps. So right there, I trapped that Alpha Doshiguma. Though I'm not able to capture it with a tranquilizer, I actually need to go ahead and use a pitfall trap or a shock trap. It doesn't really matter which one, I just need to use one of them and use 2 tranquilizers on the monster to make sure that that happens. Now, you don't need to use the 2 tranquilizers every single time. If you apply the 2 tranquilizers and then you place down the trap, even if there is a little bit of a delay between doing both things, that is still going to work, and the monster is going to be captured so long as they had lost enough HP to be captured, which again can be indicated by the monster limping or having the skull icon displayed on the minimap. A couple more things that you can do inside the tent that I forgot to mention is you're able to rest, allowing you to change the weather that is currently active on the area you're in, as well as the time of day. Though I do believe you'll need to progress through the story to unlock this feature. You can also post quests much like you could by talking to Alma, so you can do it all from here, change the background music, and also if you have layered armor, that is to say that equipment you can equip on top of your hunter to change the way they look, you can change it here in the final menu under appearance. And that is both for your hunter, your palico, and your sacred. There are 2 more facilities I want to tell you about, with this one being the provision stockpile, essentially the shop where you can buy all kinds of supplies, and you can buy them directly to the item pouch or into your item box. I usually don't buy a lot of things from here, but what I end up buying is usually a large chunk of large barrel bombs, life powders, and trap tools, so I can make the shock trap or the pitfall trap. And of course, if you are a bogan player, then you can also buy all of these ammo types. And occasionally there's also another facility, the Argosy, where basically a special ship comes in periodically with special loot containing all kinds of items, and you can purchase from him by using the resource points. And some of these even include weapons, though a lot of them aren't anything too special. But you can actually decide the type of items that he is going to sell to you when he returns, so depending on what you are looking for, you can talk to him and make sure that he brings the items you want. There is a lot more that I can tell you about Monster Hunter Wilds, but this video should serve as a head start and give you some good guidance when you are starting your first playthrough. I have a lot more guides on the channel specifically about the endgame, progression, the type of weapons and builds you should try to get, depending at which point in the game you are at, how to unlock a bunch of different features, and the side quests that you should try to do as early as possible, so make sure that you subscribe to watch those videos as well, as they're going to be helpful to you. With that being said, above all else, have fun with the game. My name is Dark Hero, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, happy hunting!